My sister dumped her kids at my house and demanded I take care. You know, there's a difference between being responsible and being exploited. And when it comes to family, that line sometimes gets so blurred that you don't even realize when you've crossed it until it's too late. What I'm about to tell you today taught me that sometimes the people who should protect us the most are exactly the ones we need to protect ourselves from. I'm going to be honest with you. My sister Marina has always been the family princess. Ever since we were little kids, she could get anything she wanted with a simple pout or a strategic tantrum. My parents always gave in, always found an excuse for her behavior, always found a justification for her absurd actions. She's more sensitive, my mom used to say, stroking Marina's hair while I stood there next to her, ignored. She needs more attention, you understand, right? You've always been more independent. Marina was 3 years younger than me, and that meant I was always labeled as the responsible older sister. When she broke something in the house, and believe me, she broke a lot of things, always accidentally, I had to help clean up the mess. When she didn't want to do her household chores, I ended up doing mine and hers too to avoid the family drama that would follow if my parents found out she hadn't fulfilled her obligations. When she needed money borrowed to go out with friends or buy something frivolous, guess who always lent it without ever getting it back? That's right, me. What hurt me most deeply was how my parents constantly compared our personalities, always putting me as the boring one and her as the fun one. Why can't you be more spontaneous like Marina? My mom would ask when I refused some crazy idea. Marina has a special way with people. You should learn from her. My dad would say when Marina managed to convince someone to do something for her. It never mattered how hard I tried in school, always getting excellent grades, at work, always being punctual and dedicated, being the well-behaved daughter who never caused problems. Marina always stole the show with her dramatic stories and her manipulative way of getting attention. When Marina got pregnant at 19 with her first child, Miguel, my parents rushed to help her as if it were the most natural thing in the world. They paid for private doctors, bought complete baby gear, renovated a room in their house for her and the baby. When she got pregnant with her second child, Sophia, 2 years later, by a completely different father, some guy she met at a club who disappeared as soon as he found out about the pregnancy, my parents continued to be there, offering all the emotional and financial support she needed. And when she decided she wanted to live her life and go out every night to bars and parties, leaving the small children with my parents or dumping them at my house without warning, nobody in the family questioned this absurd behavior. She's still very young, my mom would justify. She needs to enjoy herself a little before settling down for good. As if being a mother was something temporary, as if it were a hobby you could pause when you want to do other things. For years, I watched Marina treat motherhood like an occasional inconvenience. She would show up at home with the children when she needed something, money, food, someone to take care of them while she sorted out her problems, and disappear for days when she wanted to have fun. Miguel and Sophia grew up without any stability, without routine, without knowing where they would sleep next week. That's how we grew up. Her being the eternal spoiled child who never faced consequences for her actions, always finding someone to solve her problems, and me being the eternal savior who always showed up to put out the fires she caused. And I was exhausted from it, completely emotionally drained. But I didn't know how to break this toxic pattern that had been established in our family over decades, until the day she forced my hand once and for all. It was a perfectly normal Saturday morning in October. Fall was approaching, the leaves were starting to change color, and I was in my kitchen making fresh coffee, still wearing my favorite pajamas, the ones with the puppy print that my best friend gave me for my birthday. I was enjoying my morning off after a particularly difficult week at work, planning to clean the house, watch some movies, and maybe make that chocolate cake recipe I had saved on Pinterest. The doorbell rang around 8 a.m. I thought it was strange because I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was too early for weekend visits. My parents always called before showing up, and my friends knew I liked to sleep in on Saturdays. When I opened the door, I almost fell backward in shock. There were my nephews, Miguel, 7 years old, with his messy hair and little glasses that always slipped down his nose, and Sophia, 5 years old, with her disheveled braids and that rag doll she never put down, each holding a small faded backpack, looking at me with those confused and slightly scared little eyes. Miguel, always the more communicative of the two, was the first to speak. "Hi, Aunt. Mom said we were going to stay here with you for a while." My heart immediately started racing. I looked at the street searching for Marina's car, but I didn't see anything. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" "She went to the airport," Sophia answered with that sweet little voice of hers, swinging the doll she always carried up and down. "She said she's going to meet her new boyfriend in a place with beaches and sun, and that you were going to take care of us because you love us so much." I stood there at the door, with the cold morning breeze hitting my face, slowly processing what I had just heard. Marina had literally abandoned her children at my doorstep, without even giving me advance warning, without asking if I could or was available, and had left for Mexico or the Caribbean with some guy she probably met on some dating app online. This was absurd even by her standards, which were already pretty low. "Did you guys have breakfast?" I asked, trying to stay calm in front of the children. "Mom said you were going to make pancakes," Miguel answered hopefully. "She said you make the best pancakes in the world." I took a deep breath and smiled at them, because regardless of the absurd situation, these children weren't to blame for anything. "Of course I'll make pancakes for you. Come in, it must be cold out here." While they came in and settled on the couch, turning on the TV and looking for cartoons, I grabbed my cell phone with literally trembling hands from nervousness and anger and called Marina. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Immediately. Voicemail again. On the third attempt, already breathing heavily with rage, she finally answered, and I could hear upbeat music and voices in the background. "Hi, sis," she said with that falsely cheerful voice she always used when she knew she had done something wrong. "Did you see that the little ones got there? That's great! Marina, what the hell are you doing?" I exploded, trying to keep my voice low so as not to scare the children. "You can't just abandon your children at my house without warning me. This is completely absurd." "Look, I know I should have called earlier, but everything happened so fast, you know how it is," she said with that carefree tone that always irritated me deeply. "Carlos, you don't know him yet, but he's such a sweetheart, got an incredible promotion at his job, and invited us to spend a few weeks in Cancun. It's the chance of my lifetime to finally meet someone who treats me well for real, who values me as a woman." "And your children, Marina? You have responsibilities. You're the mother of these children." "That's exactly why I brought them to you," she replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "You've always been the responsible sister, the one with an organized life. I knew I could count on you. It's just for 8 little weeks, 2 months at most, then I'll come back renewed and pick them up. 8 weeks, 2 whole months. Without asking me, without considering my work, my personal life, my plans, my financial situation, nothing. Marina, you're completely crazy if you think I'm going to accept this. I can't take care of the children for 2 months. I have my job, which is full-time, my life, my commitments. You need to cancel this absurd trip and come back now to get your children." "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said, and I could hear someone calling her in the background. "Sorry, sis, but I'm already at the boarding gate. The plane leaves in half an hour. There's no turning back now. Oh, and thank you so much for taking care of my babies. You're the best sister in the world. I always knew I could count on you." And she hung up on me. I stood there, looking at the phone screen that showed call ended, with my nephews on the couch behind me watching cartoons, waiting for their aunt to solve everything like she always did, like the whole family always expected me to do in every situation. But this time I wasn't going to let it slide. This time Marina had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I made pancakes for Miguel and Sophia, who ate them with the typical appetite of happy children, without fully understanding the gravity of the situation. They were used to these sudden changes. Sometimes they slept at Grandma's house, sometimes at mine, sometimes with some friend of Marina's. For them, this was normal, which broke my heart. After serving breakfast to the children and putting them to watch a movie on Netflix, I went to my room and called my boyfriend, Roberto, who was working at his office even though it was Saturday. "He did what?" he asked, completely incredulous after I told him the whole situation in detail. "I know it sounds like a movie story, but that's exactly what happened. Roberto, I'm desperate. I don't know what to do anymore. She always does this to me, puts me in impossible situations where I have no choice, and then makes me feel guilty if I don't accept it gracefully. Listen, honey, obviously you can't leave the children alone, that would be irresponsible and cruel, but you also can't accept being treated as a free babysitter available 24 hours. How about you call her again and this time record the conversation? If she confirms that she abandoned the children on purpose, you have concrete proof for Child Protective Services. The suggestion made perfect sense. I needed clear evidence that Marina had intentionally abandoned her children. Otherwise, it would be my word against hers. And my family always believed her more than me. I set up my phone to record automatically and called Marina again. This time, she answered on the first ring, and I could hear Latin music, laughter, and the sound of people having fun in the background. "Hey, sis, how are my little angels? Did they have lunch yet?" "Marina, I need you to confirm something for me, very clearly. You left Miguel and Sofia at my house this morning without giving me prior notice, and went to travel to Mexico for 8 weeks with a boyfriend. Is that right?" "That's right. Isn't it great that I finally got an opportunity like this?" she replied animatedly. "I can finally relax a little, enjoy life. Being a single mom is very stressful. You have no idea what it's like to deal with children every day. And you didn't consult with me beforehand? Didn't ask if I could or wanted to take care of them for so long? Oh, what's the problem? You love the children, everyone knows that, and you don't have anything more important to do anyway. It's just for a few weeks, and they're well-behaved when they want to be." Perfect. Everything was recorded. Marina had clearly admitted that she abandoned her children without my consent, that she didn't consult me, and that she considered my life irrelevant. "Marina, if you don't come back to get the children by Monday morning, I'm going to call Child Protective Services and report child abandonment." The laughter and music on the other side stopped instantly. "You wouldn't do that to me, not to your own sister. Try me. You know what happens if you pull that stunt?" Her voice changed completely, becoming cold and threatening. "I'm going to call your boss Monday morning, and I'm going to tell him that you're not taking your medication for depression. I'm going to say that you're having a psychological breakdown and that you're not mentally fit to take care of children. You'll lose your job instantly." My blood ran completely cold. Years ago, during a particularly difficult period in my life, when I ended a long relationship and was going through financial problems, I spent a few months in psychological treatment for depression and anxiety. Marina knew this because I trusted her as a sister, opened my heart thinking I could count on her support. And now she was using this intimate information against me as a weapon. "You wouldn't do that," I murmured, still processing the cruelty of what I had just heard. "Try reporting me and find out what I'm capable of doing. Oh, and good luck explaining to Miguel and Sofia why their mean aunt put them in an orphanage because she didn't want to take care of them." And she hung up on me again. I sat on the bed, completely shocked by the evil and coldness of my own sister. She had not only abandoned her children, but was blackmailing me using personal information and still trying to make me feel guilty for the situation she herself had created. Monday came and Marina didn't return, as I already expected. I called Child Protective Services in my city and reported the entire situation in detail, including the recording of the conversation where she admitted to abandoning the children. The social worker who attended to me said it was a serious case and that they would send someone to evaluate the situation that week. On Tuesday morning, I went to the police station and filed a detailed police report for abandonment of minors. I explained to the detective that the children had been left with me against my will and that their mother had disappeared to another country without leaving any emergency contact or expected return date. Miguel and Sofia, during all these days, behaved as always, sweet and well-behaved children who adapted to the situation because they were used to instability. They went to school normally. I picked them up in the afternoon. We did homework together, watched movies. But I could see in their little eyes a sadness that children their age shouldn't carry. On Wednesday, at 6 a.m., I remember the exact time because I was getting ready for work. My doorbell started ringing insistently, aggressively. I looked out the living room window and saw Marina getting out of an expensive black car with a man I didn't know. A big, strong guy with visible tattoos on his arms and an intimidating expression. My heart raced, but I took a deep breath and went to answer. When I opened the door, Marina had an expression of fury I had never seen before. "Where are my children?" she screamed without even greeting me. "Good morning to you too, Marina. They're at home getting ready to go to school, where they should have been accompanied by their mother for over a week. You called Child Protective Services? You actually did that? Are you completely insane? You abandoned your children, Marina. Literally abandoned them. What did you expect me to do?" That's when the man with her approached me threateningly. He was a really intimidating guy, much taller than me, with defined muscles and that type of presence that makes you feel small and vulnerable. "Is this your annoying sister?" he asked Marina with contempt in his voice. "That's her. The one who thinks she can play hero and destroy other people's lives. Before I could react or take a step back, the man put his big hand on my shoulder and gave me a strong, deliberate push, making me stumble backward and almost fall on the entrance floor. "You're going to return the children now, without discussion, or we're going to have a serious problem," he threatened, getting closer to me. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my head, but I managed to stay calm and not show the fear I was feeling. "I'm not going to do anything under threat or coercion. Get off my property right now before I call the police." Marina laughed in that cruel way I had known since childhood. "You've always been a failure. You can't even face a real-life situation, always running to other people to solve your problems." I immediately closed the door in their faces and ran to get my cell phone, with my hands shaking from adrenaline and anger. "Hello, police? I need to report an assault at my residence. My sister brought a man who physically assaulted me, and they're at my door threatening me. There are children inside, and I feel in danger." The operator told me they would send a patrol car immediately, and advised me not to open the door for anyone else. In less than 10 minutes, 2 police cars arrived with sirens on. Miguel and Sofia got scared by the noise, and I had to calm them down, explaining that the police were there to protect us. Through the living room windows, I saw the officers approaching Marina and the man who were still in the black car parked in front of my house. What Marina didn't know, and what I found out later, is that the man she brought to intimidate me already had an extensive criminal record. When the police checked his identity in the system, they discovered he had priors for assault, domestic violence, threats, and still had an outstanding arrest warrant for failure to appear at a hearing for a previous case. The situation got even worse when Marina, seeing that her accomplice was being arrested, tried to prevent the police action. She literally went after one of the officers, screaming and trying to scratch his face, requiring her to also be restrained and handcuffed. Marina was arrested in the act for disturbing the peace, contempt of authority, resisting arrest, and complicity in the threat that had been made against me. Child Protective Services, when they learned about this entire escalation of the situation, the recordings, the police report for abandonment, and now the official record of assault and threats, immediately initiated a legal process to permanently remove custody of the children from Marina. The case ended up in family court. During the entire legal process, which lasted almost a full year of back and forth to the courthouse, hearings and psychological evaluations, I had provisional custody of Miguel and Sofia. It was a difficult period, but also revealing. The children flourished with the stability they had never had. Miguel began to excel at school, his grades improved dramatically, and he developed an interest in math and science. Sofia, who had always been more shy, began to open up socially and made several little friends at school. My parents, who initially were divided and tried to defend Marina as they always did, completely changed their position when they learned the whole story in detail. For the first time in decades, they recognized that Marina had crossed all imaginable limits. "We never imagined she would be capable of abandoning her own children like that," my mom said, crying, when she came to visit me. "And on top of that, threatening you and bringing that dangerous man. We apologize for all these years when we didn't see what was happening." Marina spent 3 months in jail. During this period, she didn't receive any visits from family, not even from our parents. When she finally got out, she desperately tried to regain custody of the children, hired a cheap lawyer, and filed appeals. But the judge was categorical in his decision. She had unequivocally demonstrated being a real danger to the physical and emotional well-being of her children. Today, 2.5 years after this entire surreal situation, I have definitive custody of Miguel and Sofia. They affectionately call me Aunt Mom, and have adapted perfectly to their new life. Miguel, now 9 years old, is in 4th grade and is one of the best students in his class. Sofia, at 7 years old, has completely overcome the separation anxiety she developed after everything she went through and has become a happy and confident child. Legally, they are my children now. I moved from my apartment to a bigger house with a backyard where they can play. Roberto, my boyfriend, has become an incredible father figure to them. The 3 of us built a real family based on love, respect, and stability. Marina tried to contact me a few times, sending messages through Facebook asking to talk and work things out. She never took responsibility for what she did, never truly apologized. In the messages, she always positioned herself as the victim, saying that I stole her children and that she was just trying to live her life. For a long time I felt guilty. Guilty for destroying the family, for separating a mother from her children, for taking such a drastic action that forever changed the family dynamics. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I would wake up wondering if I had done the right thing, if I couldn't have solved it another way. But then I look at Miguel proudly showing me the math test, where he got a perfect score, or at Sophia singing happily while playing in the backyard with her dolls, or at both of them laughing together while watching a movie on the couch on a Sunday night, and I realize I did exactly the right thing. Children are not objects you can abandon when you want to have fun and pick up when it's convenient for you. They're not accessories of your life that you store in the closet when you don't need them. They are small and vulnerable human beings who deserve emotional stability, unconditional love, and consistent care every day. Marina taught me a lesson I'll carry forever. Sometimes truly loving someone means protecting those who are vulnerable, even if it means facing and confronting those who should be their natural protector. Miguel and Sophia will never feel abandoned again. They'll never go to sleep not knowing where they'll wake up the next day, or if they'll have food for breakfast, or if the person who should take care of them will simply disappear without explanation. They have routine, they have clear rules, they have unconditional love, and most importantly, they have the certainty that they'll always have a safe home. And I learned that being the responsible sister doesn't mean accepting being abused, manipulated, or exploited. It means using that responsibility to protect those who really need and deserve protection. Marina made her choice when she left the children at my door that Saturday morning. She chose a man she barely knew over her own children. She chose temporary fun over permanent responsibility. I just made sure the consequences of that choice were appropriate and that the children stayed where they are truly loved and valued. And you guys, what would you do in a situation like this? Would you be able to confront your own family member to protect innocent children? Let me know in the comments. I read them all and respond whenever I can.